Today's review is about the 2008 South Korean horror film, A Blood Pledge. The last in a series of all-girls school South Korean horror films that began with the brilliant Whispering Corridors. This is the only setting in a film out of the whole franchise that actually takes place in a Catholic school. I'll also point out with this last review of these Korean all-girl school horror films that despite them all being part of a series, or all being lumped together as a series, making it into a sort of franchise, each film is done with a different director and writer. All the films have similar themes, an emphasis on friendship and betrayal of same, fierce competition for grades, and for getting into universities following this heavy academic emphasis that the schools place on each student. Further emphasis on girl crushes, teen pregnancy, Korean teenage girls being portrayed as bitchy, bullying, and overly obsessed with status, money, and class. Dysfunctional family units and betrayal are all part of the franchise, along with curses, urban myths, and of course, supernatural occurrences. The first three films in the series really are the best. In my honest opinion, as the last two sequels were tacked on to the original three, it really felt like they left the verse quite a lot and maintained or kept in touch with whatever was happening in Asian cinema at that time in the field of horror. There are a lot of elements like grudge and so on that just kind of crop up, and it seems like they've taken what they knew was a popular formula and kind of added it to their own, except in the case of Voice, where Voice did really go back and touch upon the second film, Memento Mori, in the first trilogy. Now, Blood Pledge was directed by Jun Young Lee, who was actually a co-writer on the really fantastic 2002 film, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. This film marks his second time in the director's chair. It's also his second credit for writing, and it's his first feature-length film. He hasn't done too bad a job, but there are a few things he could have cleared up, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Now, despite what IMDb maintains, this is not a film about four, count 'em, four friends who swear a blood oath. No, it's about three friends who swear a blood oath, and another girl that comes along later on and gets involved. It all comes about because the leader of this elite little trio of friends, Eugene, or Yoon-ju, as they say in the film, is a manipulative little schemer who doesn't like to lose at anything. She's also not above bullying, being pushy, and smacking other people about, as you'll notice when you watch the film. She's been knocked off her top spot as having the highest grade average in the school. Now, the reason for this has to do with her out-of-school love interest or romance with Ki-ho, who was a rich love rat of the First Order. Rather than cool things off with Ki-ho, she decides to knock the top spot leader, Eugene, out of her place by actually wooing her best friend Soy into her little group. She kicks out an established member of the little trio and starts really going after Soy. In the process, she tries very, very hard and makes Soy do the same to put Eugene down and to make her feel really alone. The idea is that this is going to make her so upset and so distraught that she's going to stop making those high grades and give Inju, or Eugene, a chance to get back in the leaderboard again. Unfortunately, the whole plan backfires because Ki-ho, like I said, he is a love rat and a rich one, decides to go after the new girl, Soy, and in the process dumps Eugene and impregnates Soy. Oops. Bottom line is, Eugene's got to think fast on her feet, and she comes up with an alternative plan. Kill Soy, win back Ki-ho, and take the top spot. Now, in amongst all these various mechanizations that are going on, Eugene has fallen off the building and dies at her sister's feet. Not long afterward, the dead girl begins appearing, and little sister is asking Soy an awful lot of questions about why her sister died. Now, the school's broken down into various cliques and class loyalties, and it's a hotbed of rumors, backbiting, theories, and mudslinging between the various factions. A Blood Pledge is entertaining. Sadly, it's not really what I would consider a great finish to this series or franchise. Granted, it doesn't borrow as much from the franchise directly as, say, Voice did, for example, but it just doesn't feel right. It feels kind of like a poor relative or a rotten, what's the saying? A red-headed stepchild to the whole series. It even really feels a little bit like a made-for-TV version of the whole franchise. The film itself is confusing and a little bit hard to follow at times. Not just because of the flashbacks that can be very confusing and a little bit disorienting sometimes, and for the events that transpire that make no real sense and have no real explanation as to why they took place. It also has to do with the fact that two of the main leads look so much alike. Hairstyle, and of course they're all wearing the obligatory school uniforms, and that doesn't help, but their facial features are also very, very similar. It would have helped a little bit if the director had changed hairstyles or something, just so it would have been a little bit easier to keep track of who was who. I had to watch the film 2 or 3 times to actually make sure I knew who was doing what and why, and not keep confusing Eunju and Soy repeatedly. In terms of things that happen that make no real sense, a perfect example is the locker scene in the classroom. You will recognize what I'm talking about the second you see it. I won't go any further into that one. And another one that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, I mean, it does make sense, I suppose, in the fact that, well, again, you'll have to watch it, but it's the Rich Loverat's mom is going to pick up Soy and force her to have an abortion. And the scene's good. It's impressive, kind of almost like a Takeshi Miike sort of scene, but it doesn't really fit the motif of the film. I would recommend watching A Blood Pledge, and Voice actually, just to come up with, I guess, a bit of closure over the entire series. Neither of the last 2 films really compared with the first in the trilogy, which were brilliant in my lowly estimation, but they are entertaining. They're fun to watch. The last one, again, as much as it entertained, there were bits in it that didn't really make a lot of sense. Continuity was a little messed up sometimes, and their locations just fluctuated. And again, I don't know whether it's because I couldn't follow the action quite well or because it was just confusing full stop. But it looked to me like the exit to the roof where, the girls go to commit suicide changed about 4 times. Don't know what that was all about, but I do know 1 minute there's a window there, the next minute there's not. The only thing that did stay the same throughout the entire approach to the rooftop entrance or exit, however you want to look at it, although exit I guess is when they jumped off, so it would be entrance, is when you went up. For a Catholic school, they obviously don't practice the old cleanliness is next to godliness rule, because there were cobwebs and dust everywhere. That's it for me this week, so until next time, keep watching the movies and have fun. Bye.